In 2009, a man threw away a hard drive containing 7,500 Bitcoin. Today, that trash is worth over $400 million. The story isn't just about a costly mistake. It's about an idea that governments tried to suppress, technologists tried to perfect, and skeptics dismissed as impossible. For decades, brilliant minds attempted to create digital money that couldn't be controlled or shut down. They all failed. Then, in 2008, someone finally cracked the code. Before Bitcoin became a phenomenon, it was an outlier in a long line of failed experiments. The concept of digital cash wasn't born with Satoshi Nakamoto. It emerged from a radical movement in the 1980s, driven by cryptographers who believed privacy was under siege. They called themselves Cypherpunks, and they had a mission: use cryptography to protect individual freedom from government overreach. The earliest pioneer was David Chaum, an American cryptographer who began experimenting with electronic cash in 1983. Chaum wasn't just building a payment system, he was designing a shield against surveillance. His invention, the blind signature protocol, allowed people to prove things about themselves without revealing their identity. You could verify someone was old enough to enter a bar without seeing their address or full name. Simple concept, revolutionary implications. By 1989, Chaum founded DigiCash to bring his vision to life. 4 years later, they launched eCash, a product that enabled secure, anonymous money transfers over the internet. This was before online shopping became mainstream, before most people even had email addresses. Chaum was solving a problem the world hadn't realized it had yet. But here's where things got dangerous. The US government didn't appreciate cryptographers creating tools that could evade their surveillance. The National Security Agency, responsible for both protecting secrets and breaking codes, began pressuring academic institutions. They sent letters to scientific associations, warning them not to hold conferences on cryptography. Some of Chaum's colleagues received secrecy orders, turning their research into classified material. Sharing it became a federal crime. Chaum pushed forward anyway. He later said he risked spending the rest of his life in prison to set cryptography free. The government's hostility was so intense that some crypto enthusiasts resorted to printing code on t-shirts or getting it tattooed, exploiting free speech protections to smuggle information past export restrictions. Despite the obstacles, eCash started gaining traction. By the mid-90s, the product was technically flawless. It solved security problems inherent to credit cards and eliminated transaction fees. Then came the offer that should have changed everything. Bill Gates contacted Chaum personally. Microsoft wanted to integrate eCash into every copy of Windows 95. Rumors suggest Gates offered $100 million. Chaum said no. He rejected that offer and every subsequent one. According to former employees, his stubbornness bordered on paranoia. He couldn't trust the intentions of corporations, no matter how lucrative the deal. He believed better offers would come. He wanted perfection. In 1996, Chaum stated that the difference between bad electronic cash and well-developed digital cash would determine whether society ended up with dictatorship or democracy. His idealism became his downfall. Internal conflicts erupted. Chaum lost control of DigiCash to external investors who tried pivoting to banks. But banks weren't interested. They preferred the lucrative fees from credit cards over experimental technology. By 1998, DigiCash was bankrupt. The first wave of digital currency died before most people knew it existed. The world wasn't ready. Or maybe it just wasn't desperate enough yet. But the idea refused to die with DigiCash. Cryptographers and economists kept pushing forward, convinced that digital money independent of government control was both necessary and inevitable. In 1999, Nobel Prize-winning economist Milton Friedman made a prediction. He said the internet would become a major force in reducing government power, but one thing was missing: reliable electronic cash. He envisioned a system where funds could transfer from person to person without either party knowing the other's identity. He even suggested that monetary policy should be managed by computers rather than corruptible humans. Around the same time, new proposals started circulating on cryptography forums. Wei Dai, a University of Washington graduate, published a concept called B-Money in 1998. It described online economies operating entirely outside government regulation. Theoretical, popular among enthusiasts, but it never gained the traction needed to become reality. Then there was BitGold, proposed by Nick Szabo, a former DigiCash employee. Szabo's idea was radical. Instead of digital currency representing traditional money, the currency itself could be the valuable commodity. Miners would earn it by solving cryptographic puzzles. Sound familiar? BitGold was the closest predecessor to Bitcoin. It eliminated reliance on banks entirely. Szabo wanted to replicate gold's security and trust characteristics in cyberspace, creating something that didn't depend on any central authority. But BitGold had flaws. Privacy protections were weak. The mining mechanism had technical shortcomings. Like B-money, it remained theoretical. Neither system ever launched. For nearly a decade, the cryptographic money movement went quiet. DigiCash's failure cast a shadow. The dot-com bubble burst. Attention shifted elsewhere. It seemed like digital cash was destined to remain a fringe fantasy, and discussed in obscure forums but never realized. Then, in August 2008, someone registered the domain bitcoin.org anonymously. 2 months later, a paper titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, appeared on a cryptography mailing list. It was signed by Satoshi Nakamoto, a name nobody recognized. In 9 pages, Nakamoto outlined a system that solved the problems that had plagued every previous attempt. The breakthrough was elegant. Digital money had always faced one fundamental problem: the double spending issue. Physical cash can't be copied. Digital files can. What stops someone from spending the same digital coin multiple times? Previous systems required trusted third parties, usually banks, to verify transactions. But involving banks defeated the entire purpose. Nakamoto's solution was a distributed ledger maintained by a global network of computers. Instead of one authority keeping records, thousands of independent nodes would verify every transaction. Fraudulent records would be rejected because they wouldn't match the consensus. No single point of failure, no entity to shut down or corrupt. On January 3, 2009, the first Bitcoin block was mined. Embedded within it was a message. The Times, 3rd of January 2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. It was a timestamp, yes, but also a statement of purpose. Bitcoin emerged as a direct response to the 2008 financial crisis, to government bailouts, to a system that privatized profits and socialized losses. 9 days later, Nakamoto sent 10 Bitcoin to Hal Finney, a cryptographer who'd been involved in digital cash experiments for years. The first transaction was complete. Bitcoin was live, but the real question wasn't whether the technology worked. The question was whether anyone would care. At first, almost nobody did. Early adopters were cryptography hobbyists and libertarians who'd been following digital cash experiments for years. The technology worked, but Bitcoin traded at fractions of a penny. No exchanges existed. No merchants accepted it. It was basically a curiosity, something technical people tinkered with in their spare time. Then came the first famous Bitcoin transaction, May 22, 2010. A programmer named Laszlo Hanyek wanted to prove Bitcoin had a real-world value. He offered 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas. Someone took him up on it. Those pizzas cost about $35. Today, that same amount of Bitcoin would be worth hundreds of millions. May 22nd is now celebrated as Bitcoin Pizza Day, a reminder of how radically perceptions can shift. By July 2010, Bitcoin started appearing on exchanges. Its value climbed from 0.08 of a cent to 8 cents within weeks. Still, mainstream attention remained non-existent. The first Reddit post about Bitcoin in 2010 was downvoted. Early television mentions treated it as a joke or a fringe curiosity. In 2012, an episode of The Good Wife referenced Bitcoin when it traded at $3.41. Characters debated whether it was real money or just another internet fad. Most people assumed the latter, but a small community believed otherwise. Chamath Palihapitiya, an early Facebook executive, saw potential when Bitcoin traded at $135. He argued that Bitcoin's true test wouldn't happen in stable Western economies. It would happen in countries with weak currencies and capital controls. Brazil, Venezuela, India, Argentina, places where people desperately needed alternatives to their failing national currencies. He was right. Over the following years, Bitcoin adoption surged in emerging markets. Citizens used it to preserve wealth during hyperinflation, bypass corrupt banking systems, and move money across borders without permission. Bitcoin wasn't just a speculative asset. For millions, it was financial infrastructure where none existed. Yet despite Bitcoin's growing adoption, its creator remained a ghost. Satoshi Nakamoto participated actively in online forums through 2010, refining the code and responding to technical questions. But personal details? Zero. Nakamoto claimed to be a 37-year-old Japanese man, but linguistic analysis suggested otherwise. The writing style resembled British English. Timestamps on forum posts indicated someone working during European or American hours. Then, on April 26, 2011, Nakamoto sent a final email to a fellow developer. It read simply that he had moved on to other things, and that Bitcoin's future was in good hands. After that, silence. Complete disappearance. Nakamoto's Bitcoin wallet, containing roughly 1 million coins, has never been touched. If Bitcoin reaches certain price thresholds, that wallet would make Nakamoto the wealthiest person on Earth. But the coins just sit there, untouched, adding to the mystery. Speculation about Nakamoto's identity has been relentless. Was it Nick Szabo, the BitGold creator whose writing style matched? He's denied it repeatedly. Was it Hal Finney, the recipient of the first Bitcoin transaction? Finney passed away in 2014 and investigations found no evidence. Was it a group rather than an individual? Some believe the sophistication required suggests a team effort. Others have claimed to be Satoshi. Australian computer scientist Craig Wright insisted he created Bitcoin, but when pressed for cryptographic proof, he couldn't provide it. The mystery deepened rather than resolved. Maybe Nakamoto understood that remaining anonymous was essential. A decentralized currency needs no figurehead, no founder to target, arrest, or discredit. By vanishing, Nakamoto ensured Bitcoin couldn't be stopped by eliminating its creator. Regardless of identity, the impact is undeniable. Bitcoin survived its infancy. It weathered skepticism, regulatory crackdowns, exchange collapses, and countless obituaries declaring it dead. Yet it kept running. By 2013, major merchants began accepting it. By 2017, institutional investors took notice. By 2021, countries like El Salvador adopted it as legal tender. PayPal, MasterCard, Apple Pay integrated Bitcoin into their systems. Tesla bought $1.5 billion worth. Traditional financial institutions that once dismissed it now offer exposure to clients. Bitcoin's evolution mirrors the internet's trajectory. Early adopters saw potential others couldn't. Critics dismissed it as a fad. Then, slowly, undeniably, it became infrastructure. Not perfect, not without problems, but resilient, adaptable, and impossible to ignore. The double spending problem that stumped cryptographers for decades? Solved through distributed consensus. The need for trusted intermediaries? Eliminated through proof-of-work mining? The risk of government shutdown? Neutralized through decentralization across thousands of global nodes. Bitcoin achieved what DigiCash, eCash, B-Money, and BitGold couldn't. It worked, and it kept working. Today, the ideas that seemed fringe in 1983 when David Chaum first proposed electronic cash have materialized. The cypherpunk vision of financial privacy and freedom from central control isn't theoretical anymore. It exists, running continuously, processing transactions every 10 minutes like clockwork. No CEO to fire, no board to appease, no government to bribe or coerce. Just code, mathematics, and distributed consensus. Whether Bitcoin becomes the global reserve currency or remains a niche asset, its existence proves something fundamental. Money can exist outside government control. Peer-to-peer transactions without intermediaries aren't just possible. They're happening right now, billions of dollars worth daily across every continent. The genie is out of the bottle. The code is open source. The network is distributed. You can't uninvent Bitcoin any more than you can uninvent the internet. Satoshi Nakamoto gave the world a tool. What humanity does with it remains to be seen. But the question is no longer whether decentralized digital money can exist. It does. The question now is what comes next. The story of Bitcoin isn't about technology alone, it's about persistence against impossible odds. David Chaum risked prison to free cryptography from government control. Nick Szabo designed BitGold, knowing it might never launch. Hal Finney ran the first transaction when Bitcoin was worthless. Satoshi Nakamoto vanished to protect what they'd created. Each failure taught the next generation what not to do. Governments tried to classify cryptography as a weapon. Banks ignored early digital cash systems. Critics called Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme, a bubble, a passing fad. They declared it dead hundreds of times. Yet here we are. The network processes billions in value daily. No permission required, no intermediary needed, just mathematics and consensus. Maybe Bitcoin succeeds long term. Maybe something better replaces it. But the precedent is set. Money can exist beyond government reach. Transactions can happen peer-to-peer across borders without banks taking their cut. The idea they tried to kill has already won. Because you can't kill an idea whose time has come. And you definitely can't kill an idea that's been copied onto thousands of computers worldwide, running code that anyone can audit, maintained by a community that believes financial freedom isn't negotiable. That's the real revolution. Not the price, not the hype,